Hello, I am Emma. Today I will tell you about how the noise first ceased, and then how the flow of time changed. Before you lend an ear to this video, I ask you to stretch your perception of time. If you haven't witnessed them yet, I highly recommend watching my videos, 1 day after humanity disappears, and 1 year after humanity disappears. Because what you are about to hear is the inevitable maturity of that beginning. This is not a doomsday scenario. This is the story of the world casting off its burden and taking a deep breath. When mankind withdrew from the stage one morning, as if they had never existed, no farewell symphony was played, nor was any cosmic mourning held. Only an absolute, deafening tranquility began. And now, exactly 100 years have passed since that great disappearance. The Earth continues its impressive rotation around its axis, but now that hasty species, the one that counted this rotation, chased the minutes and tried to command time, is gone. The clocks have stopped, but time marches on. What do you suppose was the most dominant element reigning over the planet at the century's end? It is silence. In the early years, the final death rattles of an agonizing civilization could still be heard. Bursting pipes, metal sheets groaning in the wind, the thunder of collapsing glass towers. Yet time devoured the noise. By the 100th year, the world had reverted to the acoustic purity it possessed millions of years ago. Now, the only audible sound is nature's own breath. The whistle of the wind passing through the hollow windows of a skyscraper, the rhythm of raindrops drumming against the concrete, and the rustling of leaves. The human voice was merely a fleeting, cacophonous parasite in the history of the planet. And the universe does not harbor parasites forever. The night is now profound, dark and silent, untainted by artificial lights or the roar of engines. Metropolises, once the pinnacle of civilization, have transformed into colossal graveyards, into rusted skeletons. Viewed from afar, the city's skylines remain recognizable, yet this is merely a mirage. As you draw closer, you witness how human hubris has crumbled away. Neglected concrete has succumbed to nature's most patient soldiers, water and roots. Roof insulation vanished long ago. Rainwater seeped into the veins of the buildings, freezing to fracture the concrete from within, rusting and swelling the iron. Skyscrapers that once touched the clouds now sway like toothless giants, their glass shattered and shed. While some surrender to gravity in a dramatic collapse, others return slowly to the earth, draped in a green shroud of vines. The city's sharp geometry, its right angles and order, have been erased. Human aesthetics have yielded to nature's chaotic yet mesmerizing randomness. As destruction silently advanced on the surface, the subterranean world had long since surrendered. The day the colossal pumps man built to keep the water out ceased, subways and tunnels were abandoned to their fate. 100 years later, those complex networks beneath cities like London, New York, or Istanbul have transformed into dark, frigid subterranean rivers. Subway stations are now the domain, not of ticket turnstiles, but of stalactites and stalagmites. Instead of rusting train cars, blind fish and amphibious creatures swim above the tracks. This place is no longer a technological marvel. It is a modern-day underwater cave. Humanity's ambition to conquer the underground has been drowned by the water's patience. Bridges were engineering's most elegant, yet most fragile wonders. Sometimes they led to an island. Sometimes they united two continents. They were an art form built on steel cables, tension, and balance. But rust knew no art. When just one of the main cables, weakened by neglect, snapped, the domino effect was inevitable. Within 100 years, most of the colossal suspension bridges connecting the straits had plunged into the waters. Rivers and straits cast off the leashes upon them. There is no longer a hand joining the two shores. The water is free and undivided once again. Asphalt was the greatest seal humanity stamped upon the soil, a black crust denying it breath. Yet nature refuses to be imprisoned. The rebellion began with dust settling in tiny cracks. Then seeds fell into those fissures. Roots pried the asphalt apart, shattering it. 100 years later, the highways that once linked continents are gone. Those black ribbons have given way to green rivers. Lane markings have vanished, and traffic signs have rusted away, merging into the earth. Roads no longer lead anywhere. They are merely the faint memory of a species once constantly in motion. Concrete gray gave way to emerald green. Forests have returned to the city centers, to the lands from which they were exiled for centuries. Oaks shattering cobblestones, plane trees rising through apartment voids. Cities are no longer for humans. They are now merely planters for trees. Man thought he had imprisoned nature within parks. Yet now, by swallowing the cities, nature has declared them its own national park. This is a silent, bloodless, but absolute occupation. For animals, man was once a hunter to be feared, or a hand that fed. Now, man is simply nothing. Deer graze on avenues where banks once stood. Wolf packs hunt within the ruins of shopping malls. Bears claim the lobbies of luxury residences for hibernation. The sky, freed from the roar of airplanes, darkens with flocks of birds. Cities have transformed into a new savanna of concrete and steel. The balance of predator and prey is re-established not by traffic lights, but by instinct. Man believed he could contain water, imprison it, and transform it into energy. Yet concrete has a lifespan, while water possesses eternity. Neglected dam gates clogged, hulls cracked, and finally, those colossal structures crumbled. Billions of tons of accumulated water broke free with a century of fury. Valleys were scoured clean, artificial lakes drained, and rivers returned to their ancient beds, to the paths their ancestors flowed. Floods swallowed the plains. Yet this is not a disaster. It is the soil reuniting with water, and water with the sea. It is a quest for balance. The soil, tamed by agriculture, turned wild with the departure of its master. The corn and wheat fields imposed by man. Those uniform, regimented rows have vanished. The soil has satisfied its hunger for diversity. Fields are now a chaotic garden of weeds, flowers, and shrubs. Genetically modified seeds have been defeated by local and resilient species. Nature, once designed for the table, has been redesigned for survival. Human absence was not a cure everywhere. In some places, it remained as a toxic wound. Nuclear power plants whose cooling systems ceased melted down, exploded, or leaked years ago. Hundreds of Chernobyl-like dead zones were formed. Radiation is invisible, odorless, and silent, yet it is there. life in these regions was shaped by strange mutations, short lifespans, and tumors. Man is gone, but the invisible fire he created will continue to burn for centuries. This was the most indelible slap man dealt to nature. Industrial zones, chemical factories, and warehouses decayed over time. Acids, solvents, and heavy metals leaking from rusting barrels poisoned the soil and seeped into groundwater. Nature struggles to digest this poison. Some regions became completely barren, creating dead lands where no plant grows and no bird flies. However, over time, specific types of bacteria and fungi will learn to eat these poisons to transform them. Nature eventually digests everything. Concrete turned to sand, iron rusted and melted away, wood decayed. But plastic, that colorful curse of man, stubbornly persists. 100 years later, plastic bottles, bags, and toys haven't fully disappeared. They have merely fragmented. Microplastics are now in the texture of the soil, in the molecules of the water, in the blood of newborn animals. This is a synthetic fossil embedded in the planet's geological layers. If an intelligence studies these layers in the future, it will name this era the Plastic Age. The seas have rejoiced with the cessation of overfishing and noise. Schools of fish cover the oceans like a silver blanket. The songs of giant whales reach from one end of the ocean to the other without the interference of ship engines. Coral reefs, relieved of human pressure, have begun to heal their wounds and regain their color. Yet the ocean floor remains humanity's junkyard. Plastic islands continue to float. The sea does not forget, but it attempts to forgive and heal. What man called the cloud was, in reality, merely metal boxes dependent on energy. The moment the electricity was cut, all of humanity's knowledge, the internet, photos, videos, bank accounts, dates, vanished into nothingness in an instant. Servers rotted from humidity. Satellites fell from orbit, burning up in the atmosphere like shooting stars. The Information Age was erased faster than the Stone Age. For writing on stone remains for thousands of years, but a hard disk without electricity is just an expensive pile of metal. There are no fire brigades, no rescue teams. A fire sparked by lightning can burn a whole city for days, and there is no one to stop it. Earthquakes tear down buildings, and no one comes to clear the rubble. The world continues to play by its own wild rules. Fire renews the forest. Earthquakes raise the mountains. What we called disaster is now merely the planet's geological activity, not a tragedy. Gravestones have toppled, names have faded away. Billions of human bodies have long since merged with the soil, resolved into their elements. Those bodies that once said, "I," are now nitrogen in the root of a tree, carbon in the leaf of a flower. Synthetic garments and nylon fabrics lasted longer than bones. Yet man as a physical form has been completely erased from the face of the planet. All that remains are atoms recycled by nature. The Statue of Liberty rusts beneath the waters. The Eiffel Tower is a toppled heap of metal. The pyramids hide beneath the sands. Stadiums, amphitheaters. No one cheers here anymore. Statues are merely stone fragments of unknown identity. For what were these structures built? To which god, which leader, which victory were they dedicated? The wind and rain do not care. Meaning was a construct existing within the human mind. With man gone, only matter remains. So, do you think the Earth missed humanity? The answer to this question is clear enough to wound human hubris. No. The Earth hosted humanity not as a child, but as a temporary guest, sometimes even as a disease. When the guest departed, the host did not mourn. On the contrary, it opened the windows and aired out the house. The air is cleaner, the water clearer, life more lush. The planet has become lighter now that the burden upon it has lifted. The Earth does not miss. The Earth simply exists and balances. For a human lifespan, 100 years is very long. For a civilization, 100 years is an era. However, for the 4.5 billion-year-old Earth, 100 years is just the blink of an eye. In this short period, the planet has already healed most of the wounds inflicted by humans by scabbing over. Humanity's dominion of thousands of years is destined to remain nothing more than a thin, dusty layer on the geological calendar. Humanity could not destroy the world. It merely destroyed the environment in which it could survive and exited the stage. The Earth proved that it could exist without humans, and even live more magnificently. At the end of 100 years, nature has reclaimed its throne. However, the ravages of time are not yet finished. Concrete still resists, plastic still battles. But what if the wheels of time turn even faster? In the next chapter, we will fast forward time even further and ask that terrifying question. 1,000 years later, will the Earth completely forget that humanity existed? Or will a trace of us, an indelible signature, remain behind?